For years, fans thought they knew everything about Living Single. The cast, the laughs, the behind-the-scenes stories. But behind the cameras, another story was unfolding. A story of betrayals, battles for respect, and pressures that nearly broke the cast apart. Now the cast is pulling back the curtain and revealing what really happened. And the truth is far more dramatic than the sitcom we thought we knew. A family forged in secret. In 1993, television changed forever with the debut of Living Single, a groundbreaking sitcom about 6 black friends navigating life, love, and career in a Brooklyn brownstone. The series was the creation of Yvette Lee Bowser, a brilliant young writer and producer who, at just 27 years old, became the first black woman to create and run her own primetime show. Bowser gave audiences a cast of characters who felt authentic, vibrant, and deeply relatable. At the center was Khadijah James, the ambitious and hard-working magazine publisher, played with charisma and strength by Queen Latifah. Alongside her was Sinclair James, Khadijah's sweet, quirky cousin brought to life by Kim Coles, and Regine Hunter, the stylish, sharp-tongued childhood friend played by Kim Fields. Across the hall lived their male counterparts. Kyle Barker, the smooth and sophisticated stockbroker portrayed by TC Carson, and Overton Wakefield Jones, the kind-hearted, bumbling handyman played by John Henton. Completing the group was Maxine Shaw, the razor-sharp attorney with an endless appetite, played by Erica Alexander, who turned Max into one of television's most unforgettable characters. Yet what fans saw on screen was only part of the story. Behind the laughter, a secret battle was brewing before the show even aired. Executives at the network had tried to erase Maxine Shaw from the script, insisting her character was too strong for audiences. For Bowser, this was personal. She saw herself in Max. She had once dreamed of being a lawyer and connected deeply with Max's wit, ambition, and unapologetic confidence. Standing her ground, Bowser delivered a bold ultimatum. If you get rid of Max, you get rid of me. The network caved, but with conditions. Max would not live in the apartment with the other women, as originally intended. Instead, she would be written as living across the street, explaining why she was always bursting through the door with dramatic entrances. That compromise was the very first victory in the cast and crew's long fight to keep the show authentic, proving Bowser's determination to preserve the vision of Living Single. Off-camera, the bonds between the cast were not instant. Despite their seamless chemistry on screen, in real life they had just met when production began. Kim Fields later described the strange reality of the job. They had to act as though they had been lifelong friends when, in truth, they were still strangers. But their talent made it believable. Over time, real family ties helped deepen the bond. Bowser added a unique layer of authenticity by casting 2 of the actors' real mothers to play their on-screen moms. Queen Latifah's mother, Rita Owens, appeared as Khadijah's supportive parent, while Kim Fields' mother, the actress Chip Fields, played Regine's glamorous and opinionated mother, Laverne Hunter. These choices grounded the show in genuine heart and blurred the lines between performance and reality in a way few sitcoms ever managed. Even the set itself carried hidden secrets. The iconic Brooklyn brownstone that became the visual symbol of the series was not built fresh for the show. It was recycled from another popular sitcom, Family Matters. But while the set may have been borrowed, the stories told within it were entirely original, breaking barriers and giving a voice to perspectives long overlooked on primetime television. The early battle to save Maxine Shaw was more than just a fight for one character. It was a warning of the challenges ahead. It revealed that the network wasn't fully prepared for unapologetic depictions of strong, complex black characters, nor for a series that celebrated black friendship, ambition, and independence without apology. That struggle would not only define Living Single's journey, but also set the stage for even bigger conflicts looming on the horizon. The pressure cooker. The success of Living Single came with an invisible weight. Behind the laughter and bright energy of the show, the cast was under enormous pressure. Network executives constantly reminded them that they were competing not just with other sitcoms, but with the shadow of Friends, a show that had borrowed heavily from their formula and was being given every advantage. The contrast created a pressure cooker environment on set. But instead of breaking under the strain, the cast, particularly the women, chose to protect one another. They built a sisterhood, a private sanctuary forged out of secrets, solidarity, and mutual defense against an industry that often seemed determined to break them down. For Kim Coles, who played the sweet and naive Sinclair, that support became a lifeline. She later revealed one of the most shocking behind-the-scenes truths. At the start of nearly every season, her manager would get a call from the network. The message was always the same. Kim needed to lose weight. At first, it sounded like a suggestion, but the more successful the show became, the harsher the pressure grew. Eventually, it escalated to a threat. Executives warned that if she didn't slim down, the writers would be forced to start adding fat jokes about her into the scripts. It was the kind of cruelty that could destroy an actor's confidence, especially in an era when television was relentlessly unforgiving about women's appearances. But Coles wasn't left to face it alone. When she confided in her castmate Erica Alexander, Erica's response was instant and uncompromising. "I won't read those jokes." Queen Latifah echoed the same defiance, making it crystal clear to the producers that body-shaming humor would not be tolerated on Living Single. Together, they drew a line in the sand. The network might have power, but the women had each other. Their bond grew beyond simply standing up for one another. In their dressing rooms, they created a world of body positivity long before the term was popularized. Erica Alexander once explained how the women would often undress in front of each other, not to compete or criticize, but to celebrate. They compared their bodies, praised their curves, and reminded one another that their real, natural shapes were beautiful. At a time when they were considered bigger women by Hollywood standards, these rituals became a quiet but powerful act of rebellion against narrow ideals of beauty. Their connection grew so close that, as Kim Coles later revealed, their bodies even began to move in sync. Spending so much time together on set, their menstrual cycles aligned, a biological reflection of the emotional bond they had formed. It was a reminder that what they shared went deeper than just a working relationship. They had become family. This nurturing spirit carried them through some of the darkest moments. Coles remembered how, during their early years on the show, Queen Latifah was privately grieving the death of her beloved older brother, Lancelot Jr., who had died tragically in a motorcycle accident in 1992. Sharing a dressing room with her, Kim felt a deep responsibility. "It was my job to be the court jester to the Queen," she said later. She tried to keep Latifah laughing, offering joy in the middle of unbearable pain. What most fans never realized was that Latifah carried her grief with her on screen every single day. Throughout all 5 seasons, her character Khadijah wore a small key around her neck. Viewers thought it was just a fashion accessory, but in truth, it was the key to the motorcycle she had once bought for her brother. Wearing it was her private tribute, a way of holding him close in silence, even as she performed for millions of viewers. This was the true heart of Living Single. The Sisterhood wasn't a storyline or a scripted gimmick. It was real. It was built in whispered conversations backstage, in moments of vulnerability when they lifted each other up, and in private rituals that affirmed their worth when the world outside tried to tear them down. The shadow of a friend. Living Single debuted in August 1993 and quickly became a hit, especially among Black and Latinx audiences who finally saw pieces of their own lives reflected on screen. The Brooklyn brownstone, the friendships, the humor, and the authenticity struck a chord that television had long ignored. But just a year later, in 1994, NBC premiered a brand new show, Friends. It, too, was about 6 young, single friends navigating love, careers, and life in a big city. The similarities were striking, and for the cast of Living Single, it felt like far more than coincidence. What most fans never realized was the truth behind that timing. Queen Latifah would later reveal what she called the smoking gun. She recalled that NBC's president at the time, Warren Littlefield, had been asked in an interview which show he wished he had on his network. His answer? Living Single. Not long after, Friends appeared on NBC's schedule. Kim Coles, who played the sweet and quirky Sinclair, never minced words about it. She confirmed the story and insisted that Living Single influenced Friends 100,000%. The parallels weren't just in the setup. Even the characters seemed to mirror each other. Coles herself pointed out how Sinclair and Lisa Kudrow's Phoebe Buffay shared the same oddball charm. One black, one white, but both defined by an offbeat, airy energy. Yet the most painful part wasn't the similarity. It was the blatant difference in how the two shows were treated. Both were filmed on the same Warner Brothers lot, but the gap in resources was impossible to ignore. TC Carson, who played the suave Kyle Barker, described it years later with raw honesty. "We were getting less all around, and then they created Friends and gave them everything. The Friends cast received massive paychecks, bigger marketing campaigns, and every tool needed to dominate. Meanwhile, the Living Single cast had to fight just to be respected." For Carson and his castmates, watching that happen across the lot was more than frustrating. It felt like a slap in the face. This wasn't simple jealousy. It was a painful reminder of how differently the industry valued them. They felt like pioneers carving out a path, only to watch someone else build a superhighway on top of it. Kim Coles once told a story that captured the awkwardness perfectly. At an event, she approached Lisa Kudrow, trying to bridge the gap by mentioning she was from that other show. Kudrow, polite but oblivious, had no idea who she was or what she meant. The success of Friends had insulated its cast so much that they weren't even aware of the show that had paved the way. For Living Single, this became a quiet, painful truth. Their groundbreaking work was overshadowed, and the very industry that profited from their blueprint acted as if they had never existed. The firing of TC Carson. Every battle eventually reaches a breaking point, and for the cast of Living Single, that moment came with the firing of TC Carson. His dismissal wasn't just the loss of a cast member. It fractured the family they had built, ripped apart the creative balance of the show, and signaled the beginning of the end. Carson, who played the smooth, sophisticated Kyle Barker, had gradually become the voice of the ensemble. Off camera, he acted as their unofficial spokesperson, the one willing to walk into a room with producers and say the things others were afraid to. He wasn't lobbying for bigger paychecks or more screen time. What drove him was something deeper. He wanted to protect the integrity of the characters, and by extension, the image of black life the show was putting on national television. He later revealed that he grew especially alarmed when writers leaned into turning Kyle and Overton into broad caricatures. Carson pushed back, telling them bluntly, "You cannot put 2 buffoonish black men against 4 strong black women." He knew the weight of representation and what it meant for viewers who rarely saw themselves reflected with dignity. To him, it was his duty to preserve that. But network executives didn't interpret his stance as passion or leadership. To them, Carson became the problem, a difficult actor, an obstacle to control. By the 4th season, the tension reached its peak. In one meeting, the executives made it clear they saw him as the ringleader, the one the rest of the cast listened to, and they quietly decided to remove him. The way it was handled was as cold as it was deceptive. On screen, Kyle was written out with a storyline that sent him off to London for a new job. Behind the scenes, Carson sensed what was coming. He asked directly if he was being fired, not out of fear, but out of a need to prepare. The producers assured him, "No, we would never break up the group." That turned out to be a lie. the truth arrived in the cruelest way. Carson sat at home watching his final episode, seeing Kyle say goodbye to Max in an emotional farewell. Minutes after the credits rolled, his phone rang. On the other end was his lawyer, confirming what he had suspected. His contract wasn't being renewed. He was out. Carson would later reflect, "It wasn't that I got fired. It was the way it was done." The fallout was immediate and devastating. The electric chemistry between Max and Kyle, the sharp banter, the simmering tension, the romance audiences had invested in, was gone. Erica Alexander, who played Max, confessed years later on the Reliving Single podcast how deeply it affected her. With tears in her eyes, she told Carson, "You were my comedy partner. Doing things without you was weird. I didn't even know how to be Max without you. It was like somebody ripped your soul out and said, 'Go.'" Without Carson, Living Single limped into its final season, but the damage was obvious. New characters like Trip and Ronnie were introduced in an attempt to fill the void, but the magic was gone. Even the writers' attempt to give fans closure, revealing in the finale that Max had unknowingly conceived a child from Kyle's sperm donation, felt rushed and hollow. Carson's firing wasn't just about removing one actor. It was about silencing the loudest voice in the room, the one who dared to challenge the system. It was retaliation dressed as a plot twist. And in silencing him, the network not only broke the spirit of the cast, they cut short one of the most groundbreaking portrayals of black friendship and love on television. Kim Coles claims Living Single executives threatened to write in fat jokes if she didn't lose weight. Kim Coles has spoken openly about how much the support of her Living Single co-stars meant when she was under pressure from network executives to lose weight. On the August 6th episode of the Reliving Single podcast, which she co-hosts with fellow castmate Erica Alexander, the two actresses revisited an episode called Crappy Birthday. In it, the characters take Khadijah, played by Queen Latifah, on a road trip to Atlantic City that quickly turns into a comedy of errors. There's a moment in the episode when Khadijah is sitting in the back seat with the luggage, and one of the characters jokes about something weighing the car down. The blindfolded passenger quips, "You better not be looking at me." Looking back, Coles and Alexander agreed it played as a subtle dig at her weight. "It is a fat joke," Alexander admitted. "We didn't do a lot of that on this show, and I'm grateful because I gained weight every year. We could have had a whole conversation about it." Coles agreed, adding, "I'm surprised we let that one go." According to Alexander, a few similar jokes did appear in early scripts, but Queen Latifah quickly shut them down. Latifah made it really clear, "We're not going to be doing that," and then they disappeared. Still, Coles revealed that behind the scenes, the pressure never really stopped. At the beginning of every season, my manager would get a call. "Kim Coles has to lose some weight. She has to lose some weight." It was constant, she recalled. She even shared how she once opened up to male friends about the criticism. Their blunt response was, "There's no man in America that would kick any one of y'all out of bed." Crude, yes, but for Coles, it highlighted something important. What was beautiful about us is that there were 4 completely different body types. We looked like women that everybody knew in our community. But there was still this expectation from executives somewhere in an office about what they thought sexy should look like. And as I gained weight, I felt like all eyes were on me. Coles said that Latifah helped put a stop to the fat jokes, but the network continued to push. "They threatened me." They told my manager, "If she keeps gaining weight, we'll start writing fat jokes." And I brought it to Erica and she told me, "I won't read those jokes." Alexander admitted she didn't remember saying that, but she didn't doubt it. "No one in our cast would have gone along with that," she said firmly. "But the sad part is, it still got into your head." I do remember you making a real effort throughout the series to try to keep up the image they wanted. For Coles, the ordeal was painful. but it also showed just how much solidarity the Living Single cast had, especially the women. They protected each other when the industry didn't. Life after the brownstone. When the doors of that Brooklyn brownstone finally closed for the last time, the cast of Living Single didn't simply walk away. They carried with them something far more valuable than fame, a set of lessons in resilience, solidarity, and the unshakable need to fight for their own narratives. What they endured behind the cameras gave them armor. And in the years that followed, each cast member built a new chapter, refusing to let the industry define their limits. For Queen Latifah, who had already made her mark as a trailblazing rapper and music icon, the years after Living Single cemented her place as one of Hollywood's true powerhouses. She stepped into film, won an Oscar nomination for Chicago, and then redefined herself yet again on television. As both the star and executive producer of CBS's The Equalizer, she not only headlined a major network series, but created jobs for hundreds of people, proving that Black women could lead powerful franchises in prime time. Away from the screen, she embraced motherhood and became an outspoken advocate for health awareness, especially in the fight against obesity. And despite her towering success, she stayed grounded, remaining in touch with her Living Single family through a group chat, never ruling out the idea of a reboot. Kim Fields, already famous from her childhood years on The Facts of Life, managed to avoid the pitfalls that often swallow young actors. She pivoted gracefully, moving behind the camera to direct, helming episodes of Kenan and Kel and multiple Tyler Perry projects. But Fields didn't stay away from acting for long. Today, she shines again on screen, starring in Netflix's The Upshaws, alongside Wanda Sykes and Mike Epps. Beyond acting, she expanded into business, launching her own signature coffee line and creating a wellness platform, Refresh by Kim Fields, proving that reinvention was second nature to her. Kim Coles's journey was one of transformation through adversity. After the show ended, she faced a period of depression and financial strain, a stark contrast to the laughter she had once brought millions of viewers. But she turned that pain into power, emerging as a motivational speaker, author, and life coach. Through her Open the GIFTS movement, she helps others embrace their true selves and find their voices. Coles also continued her acting career, taking on roles like a recent dramatic turn in Days of Our Lives, while reconnecting with fans alongside Erica Alexander on their Reliving Single podcast, a space where they reflect on both the magic and the battles of the show that changed their lives. Erica Alexander, much like her unforgettable character Maxine Shaw, became a force to be reckoned with. She took the sharp wit and fearless intelligence of Max off-screen, becoming a trailblazing activist and entrepreneur. She co-founded Color Farm Media, a company dedicated to amplifying underrepresented voices. Her company produced the award-winning documentary John Lewis, Good Trouble and the Big Payback, a bold exploration of reparations in America. At the same time, her acting career soared with acclaimed roles in Get Out, the Oscar-nominated American fiction, and the series Run the World. She proved that she wasn't just playing a groundbreaking character, she was one. For TC Carson, the wounds of his firing could have ended his career, but instead, he reinvented himself. He carved out a new identity as one of the most respected voice actors in the industry. Gamers around the world came to know his voice as Kratos, the warrior at the center of the God of War video game series, while Star Wars fans heard him bring Jedi Master Mace Windu to life in the Clone Wars. Yet he never abandoned his love of music. Carson pursued a career as a jazz vocalist, releasing albums and eventually opening his own jazz club in Atlanta, a space built for the music that first shaped him. And then there was John Henton, the lovable handyman Overton. His story became one of near tragedy and remarkable survival. In 2000, a drunk driving accident nearly cost him his life. The crash shattered both legs, broke 9 teeth, and destroyed his left eye socket, leaving his face so badly damaged that doctors had to use an old photograph to reconstruct it. After a grueling recovery, Henton made the choice to step back from television to focus on his family and health. But he never abandoned comedy. He returned to stand-up, traveling the country and making audiences laugh. Not on someone else's schedule, but on his own terms. Their lives today are the truest legacy of the fight that began in that Brooklyn brownstone. Living Single wasn't just a sitcom. It was a family forged under pressure, a testament to the strength of Black storytelling, and a reminder that the love, humor, and resilience audiences saw on screen were born from real battles fought off camera. And that, perhaps, is what most fans never realized. The legacy of Living Single is not confined to reruns or nostalgia. It lives on every single day in the strength, courage, and creativity of the people who brought it to life.